Hey, Fem. We
What,
are
what?
back with another fantastic episode for you. I'm really so far kind of excited about this season. Whether you started at the first episode of this season or you're just tuning in now for the first time, we've got some unique stuff this season so far. Like we had
Yes.
our episode where we talked about our film specifically. We had sound engineer, and today we're going to bring you a showrunner. These are all positions that we've like never really talked about before on the show, so that's pretty cool.
Yes.
But today's guest is Misha Calvert. She is a showrunner, and the most recent project that she has come out with is called Strut, which is like I'm so excited to watch the rest of it. We just kind of watched a little preview of it, but I'm gonna go binge the whole thing because it sounds
Same.
awesome. And we'll let her, talk about it in the episode. But it is on Reverie TV, which she will also talk a little bit more about how to access that. But it is a queer network. All the topics that this show covers and that this network cares about and stuff is super important stuff that we're going to get into this episode. So it was really cool to hear about like the business side, like what a showrunner does, how you become a showrunner, that sort of thing, but then to also really get into the meat and potatoes of the issues.
Very complex, but I love that. Yeah, Misha was so great. We just love getting amazing guests from people who tune into our show or find us. We are not shy to connect with you. We want to build a community that is supportive, and that is what the Fem Fam is all about.
Yes.
Because we cute like that, but also we do business, and we want to form this community. So we're really, really glad that for all of you who have been tuning in, don't forget to rate us if you like us, on
like
that
literally
Apple.
when we say that, like I'm not kidding. DM us about something on the episode. I can't tell you how many podcasts I listen to that I like feel like I know the hosts, and there's so many. They'll say something and be like, "Oh my god, me too," and I want to just like message them, and I'm like, "Is that annoying? Is that like?" Because I'm not really like bringing anything to the table. It's not annoying. We love it. Like, do it.
Showrunning, want to hear how you define it and like that role and about your show, because we got to see the teaser and it looks really good and it's funny and I love what you're doing with it, the characters, all of that.
A showrunner is typically the biggest boss on set. They run the show, and as such, they're responsible for knowing the entire world of the show, all of the characters, the current season, the future seasons, in addition to some of the more nitty-gritty about crew and cast hiring. So a lot of things get filtered up to them, and then they process, looking at the macro picture, and then they'll make decisions down from there. Now, they're not always the top, obviously the bigger you go, you'll have whole studios that you have to answer to and networks that you have to answer to. So the showrunner is more in charge of the production than, they don't get to greenlight things. But you can have showrunners that are quite established, like Ryan Murphy, Shonda Rhimes, Greg Berlanti, really powerhouse showrunners. And then at my level, I've not been doing this very long, only 5 years. So I've been showrunner on 5 series so far, and they're digital. And as it happens, I am the biggest boss, but that's because, until now, I haven't really had networks to answer to.
Mm-hmm. Interesting. Yeah. And what's kind of big differences that you see, A, for the show itself, and B, for the showrunner position on like television series versus digital series? Because so many things are going digital now. Like a web series used to be such a, oh, it's just a web series, little thing, whatever. And like web series are huge now. You can have a viral famous web series with a giant following. So are there a lot of major differences in those worlds?
Yeah, the more zeros on the end of that budget, the more pressure. So a digital series you can make for these days 2 or 3 figures, but television series proper, and that includes streaming platforms, the mainstreamers, you could be certainly in the 6 figures per episode. So the more money is at stake, the more pressure, the more responsibility, the more power, and generally the more hair you're going to lose on set with all of the stress.
Yeah.
So Misha, why do you love it? Like, what brought you into this world? And is it, why? What do you love about it?
I'm the kind of person who loves power, but I also love responsibility. And I think that's a really important distinction to make, because there's a lot of people in Hollywood who love power, not that many who love responsibility, and not that many who love what it means to respect the hiring process and the curation of an idea from its conception all the way through to, you really have to be. I treat my shows like I treat my relationships. I try to stay really grounded, dedicated, loyal. I see things through. I honor my word. I never try to be dishonest in my approach. And I just find that saves a lot of trouble, because you know enough about film and TV to know there's some real wild folks out there with some strong personalities. And so I love being the person who can make sure that the folks who are hired to come on set or to work on the creative team are not only extraordinary at what they do, but they're really good people. It's just the best way to have quality control over a project.
Yeah.
And I'm not afraid of hard work. And I'm not afraid of being the face of something. If things go wrong, when things go wrong, I'm not afraid to be the one to step up and say, hey, my show, my fault, my problem, really. And then try and fix things from there.
Yeah, that's so important, because like I'm a very type A person. I feel like if I see something going wrong, like I have to be on it to fix it. I have to be in control, and I don't even like to be in control. But like I can see the problems, and I know how to fix it, and I know that's just the kind of person that I am. But I think it's so important that you added that, like, you like to be in control, but you like the responsibility, because like you said, not everybody does. Everybody wants to be, the big boss, and not everybody wants to take the responsibility that comes along with it. And I know for me and Carolina, when we started our production company, that was one of the reasons we even got together, is because both of us are people that follow through with things. And we saw that, actually working together, we saw that being the case. And so that's very important to us. So I like that you mentioned that, and that's a reason that you love what you do, and it's not just like something that goes along with the job. Like, that's part of why you love it.
Yeah, it's
agree.
really important when I see people who aren't maybe going to be as committed. There's nothing more frustrating than being on a set and giving it your all. Like I've say this as someone who's been on sets that weren't mine a lot of the time, especially when I was younger. And you're like there, you're ready to work, you're ready to give it 100%, and then you look up and you see somebody not giving a damn. And that's so discouraging. So I really try and make sure that everyone is there doing their best, giving their best, and giving them a reason to care, because the premises of the shows that I work on and create they're not just entertaining, they're also moving the needle on social issues. And so I think they're important. And I try to find people who have the same values as I do.
Yeah, I love that too. That's another thing that's it's more prevalent nowadays, which is amazing, because we're having the conversations that we need to be having and stuff, but sometimes I feel like people, like, for an example, it's Pride Month right now, right? And a lot of big companies are just kind of throwing rainbows on things, and it's like they're just doing that to play into it, quote unquote, So for somebody that really cares about the issues, to be creating things that are talking about these issues and all of that, like, it's so important, for sure.
Yeah, absolutely. And people don't realize maybe that I'm also queer. Like, I don't really talk about that a lot. I mean, I technically am. I like forget most of the time, frankly. It's like I don't want to have to like say that in the month of June for people to care about a show about women. Sorry, you should care anyway.
Amen. I love that.
But I'll do what I got to do.
Yeah.
I'll wear a fucking rainbow if I have to.
Yeah. No, that's so true. It's like you shouldn't have to say, you know, like if you're creating a series about like if two women are in a relationship and they're the lead or whatever, like it shouldn't really matter even what you are. But if that's going to start the conversation, like, hey, by the way, I'm also, you know, I wrote it and I'm queer, like whatever gets people talking, I guess, as long as it's coming from, you know, a genuine place. Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah. No, and I think we just had a conversation with someone in sound, and it just sounds like no matter who you hire on a project, it's so important to have those initial conversations. I just had one the other day, and yeah, the producer asked, like, why do you even care to join our project? And it's for something low budget, small, a small role, project manager, but I still feel like that is such a good way to start off like the conversation, and it's an important one to have, so you know who's working for you and why we should care. Like the sound guy wants to feel like he's a part of that team, so he does give a damn on the day of set. So it's so cool to like hear someone who's even all the way up there, like that's what matters, and that's the big picture that you're seeing, and managing all those different departments, that everyone cares about the same thing. So talk to us about your sets. Like, is it because you said you're not in the big studio, but what's production like for you at your stage?
Whew, for me, I start to lose my mind about a month out. I get completely obsessed and panicky, you know, starting like about a month. And then they always say pre-production. So I try to embody that and always fail to make the best of pre-production, because really the closer you get to day one of photography, the faster you go and the more efficient you get. So nevertheless, I always end up doing a lot of producing, like whether I'm directing or not, or starring or not, I always end up doing quite a lot of the making sure that, you know, the locations are what we need, and the crew hires are what we need, and the department heads are people that I need to sign off on, and you know, alongside script development, like basically every single facet of what the production is going to entail, I will have a hand in that time leading up to production. And then I remember, like, for All Hail Beth, which is another series that I made for Brick TV, I was doing all of this work, and I was directing it and producing it, helping produce with the others. And then a day and a half before we were going to film, we had one of our lead actors drop out, and I had to completely, and she had to be an older Iranian American woman.
Very specific, yeah.
And yes, and so I spent about a half day looking for a replacement. Everyone was booked because we were shooting in 2 days. And then we called it, and we were like, we're not gonna find anyone, no one that we can afford. And so I just rewrote the entire script for a younger Iranian American woman and changed it from the mom to the sister. So like script stuff comes up as well. And if, you know, most of the shows that I do, I've written it as well. And it's just mania. It's just chaos.
Yeah.
It's constant editing. I hear, like, from what I hear, it's like you're always on the edit, and you have to be quick.
Yeah. And in television
that.
too, like showrunners will be doing that, you know, rewriting entire scenes on the day, or, you know, just extraordinary things happen. And the bigger up you get, it's not like it gets easier.
Right.
The more money, the more problems, as someone once said. But it's fun.
Because
it's really just, it's so enjoyable though, because if you can bring on the right team, then you have that support system, so that when the SHIT hits the fan, you have people there who can jump in. And as long, I like to be like Obama, and, you know, he just hired people that were smarter than him for the positions all around him. That's what he'd like to say. He said, I want to hire people who are smarter than me. So I try to do that with the department heads as well.
Yeah.
Smart.
I feel like that's what I want. You know, any set that I'm in charge of, like I just want to hire people that know all the shit that I don't know about their department, you know, because I want to say, here's my vision. And then if they have questions, they can come to me and I can answer them. But I don't want to have to be looking over their shoulder. I don't want to micromanage. I want to be able to just trust them to work their magic, you know, and I think that's, yeah, that's to me would be such a relief on a set.
Yeah, and then once you get on set,
Yeah.
It's it's more chaos. If you
Yeah.
can get 4 hours sleep or more, you should be good.
Yeah.
Oh.
So that's what my favorite AD says. His last words are 4 hours or more. So as long as you can do that, and then once you get there, like, and this is true of most directors I know, most showrunners I know, just the energy and the excitement and the vivacity of everyone. Once you get on set, you can really ride that adrenaline, you know, for a good
Yeah.
12 or 14 hours if you have to. If you're in a long shoot, like for Strut, we shot for 6 days.
Mm-hmm.
For All Hail Beth, I think it was 10. You do have to be careful what you eat. I find to really try and sleep as much as possible at night and not go out partying, anything like that. And then drink a lot of water, you know, try not to smoke a lot of cigarettes and just keep your physical health up because you're in it for the long haul. And like with a feature film, that's maybe 3 months or more. So you have to start to kind of balance and treat it more like a marathon.
Yeah. Yeah. Because you can't afford to even catch a cold that's going to have you out for a day. Like any one day matters so
She's
much.
Like, no.
Yeah.
No, I love that you're thank you for just being honest about what you have to like go through and yeah, the health aspect. I think we can all just be like, no sleep, but it's like no, like you need to find a way to shut the phone off and like knock out. And that's something I've been struggling with and trying to like get better at. Because hormonally as a woman, I have like insomnia PMS and it's like now I'm like, okay, now I know my dates. Like if I have a shoot, like I'm gonna have to figure it out because we need to like be able to, like you said, endure those long hours. But I also love that you mentioned the adrenaline rush because I think we've all been on those sets too where it was a long day, but we just enjoyed it. That it didn't matter. Like it kind of just flew by and we were just in the process. We were in the zone. We were in our element, making it
Another
happen.
reason,
so I do love that you
thank you.
that
Another reason to hire really high quality energy people is because you're on set for so long. And if there's somebody with kind of negative energy, it really, you can feel it, especially on indie sets, which are usually quite small. So I only try to hire people who are kind. It's one of the most important traits, I think, for an actor or for a crew member, because I've hired a few people over the years who weren't kind or who had some sort of, you know, mental illness or something. And of course, you don't realize it until it's too late, but it just really drains your energy. And you can get to 14 hours. And if everyone's positive and uplifted and excited, you're like, dang, I could go for 14 more, you know, but if you have that one person who's draining the energy, it can feel like a 24-hour day.
Yeah, totally.
Because then it's not only a physical and mental like drainage, it's that emotional like stressor that already if you're an actor, you're any role, you're dealing with the emotional stress of, okay, we're in it, we're bringing up or channeling that, but oh my God, that's just like an extra 50 pounds on if you're lifting, think of it as an emotional drainage. So that's so true. I mean, any tips if you already signed someone on, you're stuck with it, but is there any way to kind of
you're not stuck with them.
No.
That's an illusion. That's false.
Okay.
I'd say hire slow, fire fast. The times when I knew I should fire and I didn't fire quickly or at all, I really regretted it. And that's just boundary work, right? And understanding where you are, what leverage you have, what the legal situation is if that's an issue, and then just getting over it, like getting over the embarrassment
Yeah.
or the awkwardness of like, you have to be a business person about it. Like, this isn't working. We will find somebody else. And it's just not worth it, you know?
Yeah. I think that just you saying like the business side of it, like it's such a good reminder because I think, film
Yeah.
in it's any art is such like a personal emotional thing, right? So even though like if it's your creation, it's your baby, you have everything invested in it, that doesn't mean everybody else does. And even if they're doing you favors, like so they're invested in you because they're your friend or whatever, it's a job to them. When you're hiring on people, it's a job to them. And some people are going to be more emotionally invested for sure. But you have to remember like this isn't everybody's baby. For some people it is literally just a paycheck, and you have to treat it as such. It is a business too. So yeah, just a good
Yeah,
reminder of that.
absolutely. And a lot of indie productions, especially in New York, they don't pay. Some of the roles, the more creative ones, they won't pay at all. And a lot of indie
Yeah.
productions, especially, like when I was first starting out, first time filmmakers, etc., they just don't have the money to pay very much. So
Mm-hmm.
I think it's important to remember too, like, don't get in that mindset if you're the creator of
Mm-hmm.
these people are all doing me such a favor. Like, of course they are, but also you are offering something to them. And it's important, if your project isn't good enough that they won't come out the other side proud, able to use it to get more work, able to put it on their reel or send it to their agents and managers or whatever, then why are you making it? So
Mm-hmm.
first thing is quality
Right.
control on the script side and making sure that it's going to have the potential to be great. And then making
Yeah.
sure you're using the cameras and all of the gear and the locations. Great, great, great. Like, so you actually pivot the whole conversation from asking for handouts to offering opportunities to people. And that being said, on the other side, if you are not in a position to take low pay work, don't take it. Don't
Mm-hmm.
take it and be
Yeah.
resentful when you come on set. Like, know what it is, know what you're walking into, right? That, okay, this
Mm-hmm.
is low budget, but I'm going to give it as close as I can to as if I were getting paid my normal rate because I'm doing
Right.
it for XYZ reason. So I just think it's important to find people who get that and who aren't expecting it to be like, a commercial shoot or something where there's like, you know, just thousands and thousands of dollars for their department.
Right.
Right.
Yeah. Very good reminder.
And I think just being upfront from the start about that helps mitigate those
Mm-hmm.
conversations. And then it doesn't feel like you're in this position of I'm only asking for favors here. It's like, no, we all are, then understood like this is what I expect too back. Like the roles and responsibilities. It's more
Yeah.
clear and less like, oh, help me. So I think I love that you kind of mentioned that because it puts you in a position again of like, okay, I am the boss though still. Like I'm still trying to make this whole thing work. And we, again, as Tessa, you pointed out, like we get stuck maybe if we're doing both the creative, like just thinking creatively a lot. And then we have to remind ourselves this is also
Mm-hmm.
business and to merge the
Yeah,
two.
and it does get a little confusing in film and TV because there are people who are entirely dependent on their skill set, say as a cinematographer, to survive. And so I totally understand,
Yeah.
feeling like maybe the market's getting diluted by people offering to work for free for certain positions, but they're really not comparable. Like the kind of set that's going to hire like a $800, $900 a day cinematographer is not the kind of set that's looking for friends or
Right.
quote free
Yeah.
labor. But I think if you are starting out and you've never done this before, I wouldn't go like spraying, hey, please free labor, like on all the message boards or whatever, but maybe go and set up a dozen coffee meetings with people and start to make friends and make community.
Mm-hmm.
And then once you feel like, okay, I could call
Yeah.
this person an acquaintance, then feel them out and in conversation say, hey, would you want to come on set with me? I can only pay like a $50 stipend or whatever, right? But that
Yeah.
sort of kills two birds with one stone, because I do see in the forums people advertising for low budget, and they get flamed super hard sometimes. So it's just like, you want to be tactful about the whole thing.
Yeah. Yeah. Being tactful, being
smart.
smart, setting those boundaries, and like just, yeah, being upfront about it. And yeah, just it's so many little things to consider. But like once you've been doing this, even as long as we have, which is not that long, like we're not that experienced, but you learn these things and you figure out, and it's all just like, it's almost social cues. It's figuring out like what people are generally willing to do, what you can kind of get away with, quote unquote, and what makes sense for everybody, and it's a learning process. But yeah, I think that you outlined it really well for people just starting out. Like that's the kind of mindset you have to get into. Yeah.
Community is so important,
that.
and it's so stressful being a showrunner or a writer director of a feature film, or it's just like mind-bendingly stressful. So the more people you can have to sit down with and vent, or commiserate, or help support you and celebrate you, it just really makes you feel like, even on your down days, that you have a group of people rallying around you to see it through.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, that's why people say, like, don't go into filmmaking, whatever aspect of it you go into, unless you can't see yourself doing anything else. Because, like, being on set is simultaneously the best day in the world and the worst day in the world. Like, you love it so much, and it is also so miserable. So, yeah, it's definitely something you have to love doing, and you have to be dedicated to make it through. But surrounding yourself, like you said, with a support system is so helpful, so necessary. Are you a podcaster like us? Vlogger? Interview conductor? Do you need a VO booth or ADR? Remote audio video professional recording?
Ooh, Tessa, spill the tea.
Well, the Network Studios in Culver City is a fully functional recording oasis. With multiple rooms made to cater specifically to audio podcasts, video interviews, and voiceover, plus an experienced sound engineer with the ability to edit and master, all your needs will be covered.
Audio engineer extraordinaire Mike Casentini has worked with several podcast heavy hitters and got us started from the ground up. He's the reason we sound so good. Plus, all of our in-studio guests have been very impressed.
To find out more, visit www.thenetworkstudios.com and book your next recording session. COVID compliant and open for business.
What is the indie scene like out in LA in terms of shooting your own work? What is that like? Is it easy, hard? What are the challenges?
It's easy in the way of finding people to work with, I think, because, everybody's out here to pursue that. So it's not difficult to find a team at whatever level you're at. There's so many people at so many different levels. So that, I think, is a huge bonus of being located here. Where it gets difficult is everything is more expensive. So beyond just people's like day rates and stuff, like locations are way more expensive than, even if you go, outside of the 30-mile zone outside of LA, it's like half the price just for the location, and then permits, you have to have a permit to be everywhere. So all those little things are like exponentially more expensive in LA. So that's kind of the pro and con, I think, of doing it right in the city.
Yeah. And I just want to add, because we've now had so many indie filmmakers on this show that aren't in LA, like a lot, like 90%. And it's been awesome. And to hear where everyone's at in different cities. And really, you can do this anywhere, which is so cool. But I think LA still has that unique, visceral reaction amongst the filmmaking community. I sit down with filmmakers and for coffee, and we just it's cool to be in a city that really loves this. We all are here to do this, and we want to make it happen. So that energy is just unique. And if you want to be, anyone listening, want to be a part of that, that does exist here. And that's what's really cool versus maybe in your hometown where you are the only filmmaker passionate, trying to make it happen. Who are you going to have coffee with? It's a little bit more difficult. So that's another really great thing I love about the filmmaking community here in LA. It's out there. I don't know if that's out there in New York, but I have a lot of hybrid filmmakers too from New York to LA, and they say that they love both cities, and LA definitely has that vibe out here. The vibe.
That's cool. I don't like paying for permits or locations, so maybe I'd better stay in New York for the time being.
Yeah.
My friend is a producer, and he recently moved from New York to LA, and I was grilling him about the differences, and he was like, there's something that I noticed too. He's like, LA people are very sensitive.
Oh yeah.
I was like, what does that mean? He's like, when you're on set, you just they're sensitive, they're fragile.
I mean, that is kind of true to some degree. Like there's a very
why
I
is
don't
that
know.
true?
It's a different.
Well, we're both from, so just sorry, but Tessa and I are both from New York, East Coast. I'm born in Queens, raised in Jersey. She's from PA. That's why me and her fucking click, because we were like, wow, I was just telling her, we were just talking about, we're having a meeting today, and for the first time we considered getting drinks and maybe talking about our personal lives, but me and her we don't need the chit chat. We can just like talk business, and we don't have to like have this whole thing around it. And I think when you come from that mentality, I think back east, we're just more like direct. I think that's just how people are. That's how community is out back east. And in LA, I mean, it's a big city. Like there are pockets of people from different, it's just vastly different even in LA from where you go. And so there's not this there's not a culture that's just singular in the way they speak, act, behave. And I think that really translates over to how communication is. I mean, we're on our phones 90% of the time. Like, what is communication? I mean, I try to say hi and hello, and especially if someone's serving me coffee, like, let's have a little like, hello, thank you, like, you're a great person for like, just like a little interaction. My boyfriend makes fun of me because he'll be like, oh, she just makes friends with everyone. But I just love that sense of community. And like, but on set, it's like, I want to be that chill person, but I'm also going to be that direct person just so we get our shit done, you know? And so that's what I tell people out here. I'm like, I am really chill and easygoing, but also I want us to be able to talk about the issues and just get it figured out. And I think, that's just the vibe.
It's telling that the two New Yorkers were one of the first to respond to the podcast inquiries. You ladies were on it.
Oh, hello. I mean, no, we loved that. Like, even in talks with your PR rep, she was quick to respond to us. And I think that's something we always want to set a precedent with the people we talk about on our show, is like, we're gonna try to give you all the information up front. Like, we've gone and asked to be on shows out here, and they don't send any details, and there's
that's another thing.
No follow-up. Like, we're not gonna follow up to be on your show. You need to.
That's another vibe that's very like, for some reason, California, and I think it's because just like the vibe, I guess, out here is just very more like slow, laid back, whatever, that people just like don't follow through with things. They're not on top of things. They don't give you all the details. Like, me and Caroline are so like, we want to send out every detail you could possibly think to ask for. We want to send it out as early as we possibly can, and we want to follow up. Like, that's how we do business, and that's the kind of business that we appreciate in return. But it is not always the case out here. That's why she's my bitch.
No, it's so important. That is what like creates a marriage on set. So yes, if but the beautiful thing is there are East Coasters out here in LA, from like your friend who just moved. I mean, I'm sure we would get along instantly, just because you just, for some reason, will gravitate to those people. I found that like all my friends out here are from the East Coast, now that I think about it. Like, literally. So you just find those people.
Yeah, I've shot 3 things in New York so far this year during the pandemic.
Wow.
And it was, with the right team, it was just incredibly easy. The first one was a full series, 6-episode digital series. And that was even before the vaccine was really widely available anywhere, or maybe even approved. But that was a little stressful because of, SAG and their stipulations about COVID are just very extensive.
Yeah.
But after that one, once I got kind of used to the whole process, the other 2 were really quite easy. So I think anyone worried about shooting during COVID, if you have the right team and, of course you have your CCOs and all that, it's really a non-issue.
Yeah.
Frankly.
Yeah, we had two filmmakers come on the show and talk about their experience, but not in New York. I'm actually pretty shocked because of the way, New York was hit very hard.
Mm-hmm.
So good for you for like
we're fine now. Like literally it looks like spring break outside. Like no one is wearing masks anymore. Like that, I was at an event recently and just like a lot of people inside all together. So I guess we're back now.
Yeah, that's how it is out here now.
So good to hear. So good to hear. New York is back. LA is back. Like same. So that's such a good thing to hear.
Yeah.
I want to circle out back and talk about STRUT because this is another thing that's really important to hear why you created it, what it's about, and the platform it's on, where it's being distributed is really unique. I haven't heard about it before. So talk to us about your show.
Yeah, so it's on a network called Reverie TV, which is the first and largest queer network in the world. They've got an online base at reverie.tv, but they also license out to a lot of cable TV affiliates, like they're using DirecTV and Comcast and AT&T and Roku and a bunch of places. So I mean, literally, my show is now on television, which is cool.
Yeah,
that is awesome.
They have a lot of amazing content from the queer community, about the queer community. Wow. So I thought it was really cool that even though STRUT only has one queer character, they wanted to work with me in part because I'm a queer creator, and they thought that the whole premise of STRUT, which is these four best friends who start an escorting agency together, that would appeal to the queer community and queer sensibilities, which is so great because honestly, a lot of networks that I pitched, they were just like, oh, sex workers. Oh, that's unique. And just terrified. I could see the terror in their eyes. Yeah. So it was nice to feel like somebody was not afraid and just kind of got the whole thing. And it's a comedy, so we're dealing with sex work in a way that you don't typically see in mainstream film and television. It's not some big taboo freaky thing. It's not like sensationalized.
Right.
It's not even that sexy. It's just for normal women like you, me, anybody. Like sex work is really common and people don't know it because there are so many negative repercussions to being out as a sex worker. Like you'll get your social media shut down for a start, like no questions asked. So they'll just kill your entire presence online. They can shut down your bank accounts. They can kick you off of Airbnb. They can make sure that you like basically discrediting you on all these various platforms, And so I really wanted to destigmatize sex work because especially with OnlyFans, like come on people. It's 2021. Don't we have a few other things to worry about besides making women feel bad about being sexy online? Like, come on. So I just wanted to really normalize this industry and help to give some power back to women. And of course, there's many other sex workers who are men or non-binary or trans, etc. So, and God bless them. This show happens to center for women, but the sex worker destigmatization extends to all because there's room for all, and we're really like past the point where criminalizing sex work is at all acceptable, in my opinion.
Yeah, I think that's such an important conversation to have. I mean, I have a handful of friends that either are or were in sex work, and it's like they can't tell anybody about it, and it's so dumb because it shouldn't be. I mean, clearly they have clients, they have customers, like they're making money from it. Clearly people are using it as a service. So why are we so against it? It makes absolutely no sense, and it is so dumb. That's a whole other conversation, but I'm really glad that you are centering on that and bringing up that conversation and doing it in a comedic way, because like you said, that's something that's not really seen a lot, so giving a different perspective to it and allowing people to view it in a different way.
I feel like it kind of humanizes all,
Yeah.
like, to makes it more relatable. Like, it's not like these are like, yes, it makes it feel more like the common man or women friend that you have, like, that could be doing it or could be
Yeah.
involved, you know? So I think comedy is really smart because it also just makes it feel like it's your friend, or someone that you could be close with,
Yeah.
you know?
And any person, this is gender non-specific,
Mhm.
Right.
any person who's ever gone out on a date and, like, let's say you're hot and your date is maybe not as hot as you,
Mhm.
and you're like, well, they can pick up the tab, right?
Mhm.
Because they're glad to be on a date with me, and I'm here, I am showing myself in public with this person who's not hot,
Uh-huh.
and so they pick up the tab, right? Like, that is very relatable. I hope, I think.
Yeah.
Well, how is that really different from just putting a price tag on it
Yeah.
and saying, you want to have dinner with me, that's $500,
Yeah.
or you want to do something else with me, that's X amount of dollars. Like,
Yeah.
where's the line, you know?
Right.
And so it came really out of a series that I made the year before called Textual Intercourse, which was about the intersection of, okay, originally it was called Tinder is the Night, but then Tinder threatened to sue me.
Oh no.
So, but that was all about, what is the line between dating and transaction?
Mhm.
Mm,
Because there's all these unspoken kind of barters and trades that go on within dating, and especially like in big city dating,
Mhm.
and in the early stages, before it becomes like an intimate partnership.
Sure.
But early stage dating is so transactional,
Mhm.
100%.
and I just
I'm
thought, like, well,
yeah,
right?
Of course.
Like,
I have a European grandma. She's always like, the man's got to pay, otherwise grandma would not approve. And I'm like, yeah, okay, Graham, I feel you. I'm with that. Absolutely. So you're right.
yeah.
Yeah.
So
I
where
agree.
does the line? Where do we
Yeah.
draw the line? And I mean, my thoughts about the whole thing have evolved a lot in the 4 years since I first wrote STRUT. But I think at the end of the day, who is it hurting, and why do I care? Why do I care what somebody does for money if it's not hurting me, if it's not
Right.
hurting other people?
Right. Which I think also,
Absolutely.
I mean, that covers sexuality in so many ways, from actual sex work to even just like the talk about sexual orientation or sexual identification, what you identify as, like all of those things that are starting to become a little more normalized now. And I think in different cultures, like out in LA, it's a pretty common thing for people to, state what their pronouns are, for example, or whatever, but maybe not, in the Midwest or with the newer like generation, millennials and stuff. One of my friends is a teacher and she's a lesbian, and she said that, somehow it came up in her high school class and almost all the kids were like, oh yeah, I'm bi. Like that's normal. And she was like, if that could have been, when I was in high school, it would have been insane. So yeah, just normalizing all that stuff, it really gets the conversation going and hopefully makes a positive change.
Yeah, exactly. I think, one of the reflex reactions to this show and to shows about female sexuality, or even just centering a sexual female character, what happens is it really triggers people's shame, individual and collective sexual shame.
Yeah.
And, that's not to be ignored, but it's also, let's not confuse what's happening with you with the series itself, or the whatever the character is, or et cetera, that's triggering them. So, you're free to have your response around sexuality, but like really that's shining a light on your own issues around sex or gender identity or whatever. There's also a lot of internalized misogyny in women and men, both. And that's just something that we haven't really fully started to talk about yet. It was actually Black Lives Matter that helped me to understand, because they would talk about, there's a lot of discussion about internalized racism, like Black people internalizing racism, and how what a insidious effect that has. And that was what led me to realize, all the times when I have internalized misogyny and against others and myself, and how I need to continuously work to reprogram that, to be more accepting and inclusive, not just so like my sexuality, which this whole thing has been a journey of helping me to understand where I am in this whole spectrum. And then just being more accepting of women in general, and like, why am I so judgmental? And like, can I let others be, and like, let them, like, people are practically naked right now because it's summer and it's COVID and they're walking around, like, that's okay. Let them be naked. So what?
No, it's so, and that's so, like, again, kind of speaking to the internalization of it and stuff too. Like, that's kind of the trend of fashion right now as well, is like no bras are like a way bigger thing than they have been for decades, and like personally, sometimes I'll put things on and I'm like, is this okay to wear? Like, or am I too old for this? Am I too whatever? And I'm like,
free the nipples, sis.
Yeah, who fucking cares? Like,
I'm all about it. I am so here for it. Thank the Lord. Seriously. But I'm so glad that, I think just Misha, well said. I'm like not the most eloquent person here on the show, but I love that you broke that down, because I definitely was thinking about too around the Black Lives Matter movement, about women's rights too, and like we've all just it's given us all a chance to like reevaluate the way we think, and like what social programs we have going on. It can't. It's not always our fault. It's just how we were born, but it's our then job to kind of then do that deeper level of thinking and adjusting and changing and growing. So I think that's just so important. I love that you said that.
Thank you.
So before we wrap up, I want to, so you mentioned that your show's on Reverie TV, and you mentioned that a lot of cable networks, or not networks, what's the word for that? I think considered affiliates. There we go. Have picked you up. So everybody be on the lookout for that, reverie.tv. You probably have it on your TV if you have cable, if you have Roku. So that's one place to find your show. But let our listeners know, can they just find it like also online, and also where to find you, your other work, your social media, anything like that you would like to share?
Awesome. Yes. STRUT is right now available for free on reverie.tv. So if you don't have TV, go just online and look it up and watch all 6 episodes. It's live. It's here. It's very funny. So that's STRUT. Me, you can find, my website is mishacalvert.com. And I've got links to 2 other shows there that I've done that are available now. Step Into My Office, which is a dark comedy about sexual harassment. And then All Hail Beth, which is a magical realism show about a woman who becomes a Babylonian goddess.
Nice.
So those are both available.
Love that. Yes.
And I would love to hear from you on Instagram. So I answer DMs usually super fast. I'm at Misha Calvert on Instagram and on Twitter. I love connecting on Instagram. That's kind of my home base. And if any of your listeners want to drop me a line, I'd love to chat.
That's awesome. Thank you so much for making yourself available for that too. I think our listeners really appreciate that. And also thank you to Jillian Roche, your PR, who connected us. She was awesome. So I just want to make sure we shout her out if we didn't already.
Yeah, she was so great. We love her message, the way she approached us. It's like, we were just saying, not everyone knows how to like do the whole like
do business.
Do business. Thank you. Yes, do business. And she was amazing. So we really loved and appreciated her messages and putting us in contact with you. We live, this is the community we bring and form on our show. So it's just
I'll let her know.
Yeah. Yes,
thank
please. You. Yeah, she was great.
Well, lovely to meet you, ladies. Thank you again. And I can't wait to hear the episode.
Thanks for listening to FemmeRegardPodcast. If you like what you hear, tune in every Friday for more tips on the filmmaking business and insightful conversations with industry professionals.
We can only grow with your support, so please subscribe, share, rate, and review. You can also join the Fem Fam on Patreon. For more on us, check us out at FemmeRegard.com.
You're listening to the Geekscape Network.